In this video, we will use our BA2 Plus to calculate the future value and present value of a single payment or a lump sum. Here we see all of our inputs. Our time is going to be the number of years multiplied by the number of time periods in a year. In these first simple examples, we're only dealing with yearly interest rates and a number of years. On our calculator, we will use the value of N. Our interest rate is going to be the annual rate divided by the number of time periods in a year. In this case, because we're dealing with annual rates and we earn interest on an annual basis, we will divide these values by 1. And on our BA2 Plus, that value will be denoted by an I over Y. The present value is going to be our cash flow at time 0. In some examples, it's the price. It will be the PV on our BA2 Plus. The payment is an annuity and is not applicable to these next few examples. And our future value is a cash flow in the future denoted by FV. One thing to note about our R and our T, it's important to remember that our interest rate is a rate per time period. In these examples, we will assume we earn interest on a yearly basis, so we wouldn't need to make an adjustment for R by dividing it by the number of time periods per year. In this case, we would simply divide it by 1, which gives us the same value. Our T is going to be the number of time periods, and in some problems or examples, they will usually reference a number of years and you might need to convert it. Again, in these next couple of examples, simply because we are using an interest rate per year and a number of years, we can just use our interest rate and our T directly in our calculator. In some cases, you may need to make an adjustment if one variable is listed as periodic and another is per year. So our future value, again, is going to be equal to our present value times the quantity of 1 plus R to the T. And we have a value that we call our future value interest factor, which is the quantity of 1 plus R to the T. FV is future value, PV is present value, R is our periodic interest rate, and T is the number of time periods. And so in our example, suppose you have $100 today and your bank pays you 2% per year on savings. What is the value of your $100 investment in 5 years? You'll see the example is listed in the top left. And the first thing that we do whenever using our BA2 Plus is we want to clear our time value of money worksheet. So the first thing we do is hit second. And right above FV, you will see a clear TVM. And we hit that button. And that's going to clear all the values that are stored for these 5 different things. Another important thing is to note that we want to select what we want to save it as after we perform that calculation. And so, for example, if we want to put in the value of N, we could take 5 times 1, because there's 1 year in a year, equals, and it's important to note that we have to hit equals after that. If not, it will store the last number that we typed. And so, for example, if I go back and show you what would happen, again, this is not the way to do it, but if we were to type in 5 times 1 and I did not hit equals and I only hit N, it would save the 1 as N. And so if you're having trouble with it, make sure that you always hit equals 5 times 1 equals, and you'll see the number is in the calculator is 5.0, and then hit our N. And you'll notice that it's stored because it says N equals. And next we can move on to our interest rate or our yield, which is denoted by an IY. On the BA2 Plus, when they designed it, they wanted to save the users the time of having to type in extra decimal points. And so our interest rate in this example is 2%. And so what we can do is simply type in 2 for the value of IY. So here we hit just the 2 and IY. Again, it's stored in as 2 for 2%, not 0.02. We just store it in as 2. And we know that it's stored because it says IY equals. Our present value is going to be $100, so 100. And we're going to make this a negative amount to represent that is a cash outflow. In other words, you can think about this present value as an amount that's going to be saved. We are subtracting or removing the dollar amount from our wallet. We are taking it out of our wallet to save it, It is coming out of our wallet. It is a negative value. So we can hit the plus or minus button down here. And then we store it by hitting PV. For these single or lump sum payments, our PMT is not used, so we could simply type in 0 and then hit our PMT. And in order to calculate our future value, we need to hit CPT or compute, which is on the very top left, CPT, FV. And what we see is that we have a future value of $110 and about 41 cents. On our next example, suppose you have $500 today and a CD promises to pay you 5% per year. A CD is going to be a certificate of deposit from a bank where they pay interest on your savings, and your savings are committed to the bank for a certain amount of time, perhaps 3 months or 6 months or maybe 2 years. And we want to know what the value of your $500 investment is in 3 years. So we see our example at the top. And again, when using our BA2+, there are a certain number of things we need to make sure that we do. And so we have the information stored from our last example. So the first thing we can do is hit clear. And then we always want to clear the time value of money worksheet. And so we hit second and future value. And that's going to clear the amounts that were stored in these 5 things. And again, when we're typing in our in, we want to hit 3 times 1 because we have 3 years times the number of time periods in a year, and there's 1 year in a year. And then we want to make sure that we hit equals. And then in, and it's going to store it as n equals 3. We know that it's stored because it says n equals. Our interest rate is going to be 5 divided by 1 equals. And then we hit IY. Our PV is going to be $500. And it's going to be a negative amount because we're going to save that money. It's coming out of our wallet. We are saving that money. It's a negative amount, so we hit the plus or minus key. And then our PV. In this example, our payment or PMT is 0, so we hit 0, PMT. And we want to calculate or compute our future value, so we hit CPT and FV. And what we see is that we have a future value of approximately $578.81. In the next example, we will look at the present value of a lump sum. We're going to assume that it's going to cost $15,000 to attend graduate school 7 years from today. If we earn 2.25% interest or APR per year by saving it in the bank, what single amount or lump sum payment would you have to deposit today to have the necessary funds? And in this example, we need to recognize that we earn interest on a yearly basis. So we're going to divide our interest rate by 1 and we'll multiply our T times 1. And so we see our example on the top left. And the first thing that we want to make sure we do is to clear our time value of money input. So we hit second and FV. And in this case, our N is going to be the number of years times our number of compounding periods per year, or the number of time periods in a year. And we're looking at annually earning interest. And so there is 1 year in a year, so we multiply our N by 1. So we have 7 times 1. And then we'll hit N to store it. Our interest rate is going to be 2.25% per year. And we earn interest annually. So we hit 2.25 divided by 1 equals, and then IY. Our PV we're going to skip over because that's what we're trying to calculate. Our PMT is going to be equal to 0. And our future value is going to be $15,000. And at some point, that money will come back to us in the future, and it will be a positive amount because it will be added to our wallet. And so now we have to calculate or compute our present value, and we could simply hit CPT and PV, and we find out that we'd have to save $12,836 and about 54 cents. You'll notice that it's a minus sign here because that assumes that in order to save it today, it's a cash outflow. It would be money coming out of our wallet to go into the bank. The $15,000 was a positive value because it's money that would be added back to our wallet. And so for this case, if we needed to save a single amount today and we were able to earn 2.25% interest for 7 years, if we needed $15,000, we would have to save $12,836 and about 54 cents.